Intro: A quiet confession. There is a quiet confession many believers carry. One they rarely say out loud. I don't like having visitors. This is not something people admit easily. And it needs to be spoken gently. Because this feeling does not mean you are cold. It does not mean you are unloving. And it certainly does not mean you are distant from God. Sometimes, it simply means your soul has learned to breathe best in stillness. The Bible never mocks the quiet heart. In fact, Scripture often treats silence as sacred ground, a space where God does His deepest work. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm chapter 46 verse 10. Stillness is not emptiness. It is awareness. It is the place where the noise of expectation fades, and the soul remembers who it belongs to. There are seasons when opening the door to people feels heavier than closing it. And that weight usually comes from somewhere real. I know what it is like to protect your space. Because your spirit feels thin, stretched, or tired in ways words cannot explain. The Bible acknowledges this inward guarding without condemnation. Jesus himself often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Luke chapter 5 verse 16. He loved people deeply. Yet he did not give unlimited access to his time or his inner world. This tells us something important. Needing space is not rejection. Sometimes, it is restoration. A guarded door does not always mean a hardened heart. God looks beneath behavior and into intention. The Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 7. Discomfort with visitors may reveal a soul longing for peace, safety, or healing, not attention. The Bible never commands constant availability. It calls for love rooted in truth. Before God asks us to open our homes, He first invites us to open our hearts to Him. Slowly, patiently, without force. Number 1. When silence feels safer than small talk. There are moments when conversation feels like noise instead of connection. Moments when the soul quietly chooses silence. Because it feels safer. This is not always pride. And it is not always rejection. In Scripture, silence often appears as a response to inner weight. Times when words feel insufficient, or even harmful. The Bible never presents constant talking as spiritual maturity. In fact, it links wisdom with restraint. Even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent. Proverbs chapter 17 verse 28. Silence can be discernment, a way the soul protects itself from saying what it does not yet understand. For some believers, avoiding visitors is not about disliking people, but about avoiding shallow exchange. When the heart longs for depth, small talk can feel exhausting. When the inner life is tender or unsettled, Scripture recognizes this tension. There is a time to be silent and a time to speak. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 7. Not every season is meant for open doors. Some seasons are meant for listening. Listening to God. Listening to the soul. Listening to what is quietly forming beneath the surface. God often speaks in stillness, not chaos. Elijah did not meet God in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire, but in a gentle whisper. 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 12. A soul that prefers silence may be more attuned to that whisper than it realizes. Number 2. The difference between solitude and isolation. The Bible makes a clear distinction between solitude that restores and isolation that slowly harms. Solitude is chosen with purpose. Isolation grows from fear. Jesus embraced solitude regularly, not to avoid people, but to align himself with the Father. Isolation, however, carries a different weight. Whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. Proverbs chapter 18 verse 1. The difference is not how many visitors you have, but what your quiet produces. Does it draw you closer to God? Or does it turn you inward, defensive and closed? Healthy solitude invites God to search the heart. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Psalm chapter 139 verse 23. Isolation resists that searching. Solitude softens the heart. Isolation seals it. Number 3. A wounded heart often protects its door. Sometimes, avoiding visitors has little to do with personality, and everything to do with pain. The Bible never ignores wounded hearts. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm chapter 147 verse 3. A wounded soul often guards space, because space feels safer than exposure. Visitors can unknowingly reopen wounds, stir memories, or place emotional demands the heart is not ready to carry. Scripture does not shame this instinct. Even Jesus did not entrust himself to everyone. John chapter 2 verse 24. Love does not require unlimited access. Wisdom allows boundaries while healing takes place. God does not rush wounded hearts. He works gently, quietly, patiently. Number 4. When your home becomes a sanctuary, not a fortress. Hospitality in Scripture flows from love, not pressure. A sanctuary protects peace and prayer. A fortress protects fear. God is not honored by forced openness. A quiet home with God's presence is more sacred than a noisy one without peace. God is not a God of disorder, but of peace. 1 Corinthians chapter 14 verse 33. The question is not how often your door opens, but why it stays closed. Number 5. God often meets his servants in quiet places. Throughout Scripture, God draws his servants away before sending them back with clarity. Moses met God alone on the mountain. Jesus prayed before major moments. Elijah was restored in silence. Quiet is not escape. It is preparation. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Lamentations chapter 3 verse 26. Number 6. Fear versus discernment. Fear contracts the heart. Discernment steadies it. Both may close doors, but only one brings peace. God has not given us a spirit of fear. 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7. Peace is the marker of God's guidance. Number 7. Open the heart before the door. God cares more about the heart than appearances. A guarded heart is wisdom. A hardened heart is resistance. God would rather have a quiet home with a heart open to him than a busy home where love has grown thin. Conclusion. When God knocks gently, God is not standing outside your door with accusation. He knocks gently. Here I am. I stand at the door and knock. Revelation chapter 3 verse 20. He is patient with weary souls. The goal is not a permanently closed door or a constantly open one. The goal is a heart aligned with God that knows when to welcome and when to wait. When God leads, both solitude and hospitality become acts of obedience. Part 2. When solitude becomes God's voice. As old age arrives, a person does not only lose strength, but also loses familiar voices. Those who once sat at the same table have gone. The conversations that once filled the days have faded. The room grows so quiet that only one's own breathing remains. Yet it is in this silence that something unusual begins to happen. The elderly man kneels, no longer asking for great things. He does not ask for more years. He does not ask for companionship. He speaks softly. Lord, if this loneliness is from you, then teach me what you want me to hear. And in that moment, he realizes God has been speaking all along. Not through crowds, not through noise, but through stillness. The loneliness was not emptiness. It was space. Space where memories could settle. Space where pride could fall away. Space where the soul could finally breathe. For the first time in years, his prayers are not rushed. There is no one waiting. No schedule to keep. No voice interrupting his thoughts. And in the quiet, Scripture comes alive. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm chapter 46 verse 10. He begins to understand that God sometimes removes people, not to wound the heart, but to protect it. Because not every voice leads to truth. Not every presence brings peace. Some seasons require distance, so faith can deepen. And so the man remains alone, but no longer abandoned. For in the stillness, God is closer than ever. Part 3. The loneliness that refines the soul. As the years pass, the man begins to notice a change. The loneliness no longer hurts the way it once did. It sharpens him. When there are no friends left to impress, no roles left to play, no expectations to fulfill, a person finally meets their true self. In solitude, masks fall away. He sees his past clearly. The mistakes he once justified. The anger he once defended. The pride he once called strength. And strangely, this honesty does not crush him. It frees him. Because God does not demand perfection in old age. God desires truth. The man understands now. Solitude is not punishment. It is refinement. Just as fire refines gold, silence refines the soul. And in this refinement, he feels lighter than he has in decades. Part 4. Why God allows you to walk alone. Many fear growing old alone. But God sees something deeper. When people surround you, your faith is often shared. When people leave, your faith becomes personal. God allows solitude, because certain lessons cannot be learned in company. In loneliness, you learn dependence, not on people, but on God. You learn that peace is not something others give you. It is something God grows within you. The man realizes something profound. Those who walk with God longest often walk with fewer people, not because they are rejected, but because their path is sacred. God does not isolate his chosen ones to break them. He isolates them to protect them from distraction, from false comfort, from voices that would pull them away from truth. And so, the man walks alone, but his steps are guided. Part 5. The blessing hidden in aging alone. Now, in his final years, the man no longer fears death, because he has already learned how to live without clinging. He understands that solitude has prepared him to let go, prepared him to trust, prepared him to meet God without noise in his heart. If you are growing old alone, do not assume you have been forgotten. Perhaps you have been chosen for clarity, chosen for peace, chosen for a deeper walk with God. Loneliness without friends is not always a curse. Sometimes, it is God clearing the room, so he can sit with you alone. And in that sacred silence, you are never truly alone. Part 6. When God becomes your only companion. There comes a moment when the man realizes something quietly powerful. God is no longer part of his life. God is his life. In the early years, he prayed when he needed help. Now, he prays because prayer feels like breathing. There are no long speeches, no dramatic words, only silence and presence. He sits alone, yet his heart feels accompanied. Because when everything else has fallen away, titles, friendships, ambitions, God remains, not louder than before, but closer. The man understands now. God does not fill the noise of youth. God fills the silence of age. And in that silence, he feels known. Part 7. The strength that comes after everything is lost. The world believes strength looks like control, influence, and numbers. But the man has discovered another kind of strength. the strength to forgive without being asked, the strength to bless those who never returned, the strength to remain gentle in a hard world. This strength did not come from success. It came from loss, from being misunderstood, from being left behind, from learning how to stand when no one applauded. God shaped him slowly, through years that felt empty, through nights that felt endless. And now, his faith is unshakable, not because life was easy, but because God proved faithful when life was not. This is the strength of the elderly believer. Quiet, steady, unmovable. Part 8. What God is preparing you for. Old age is not God's ending. It is God's final preparation. The man senses it now. His heart is calm, his spirit ready. God has removed distractions, so nothing stands between them. No fear of being alone. No hunger for approval. No attachment to what fades. Only trust. If you are walking this season of life, understand this truth. God is not slowly taking things away from you. God is slowly giving you eternity. Every quiet morning, every empty chair, every silent evening, they are not signs of abandonment. They are signs of transition. You are being prepared to step into God's presence without regret, without fear, without unfinished business in your soul. And when that moment comes, you will not walk toward God as a stranger. You will walk toward Him as someone who has already been walking with Him for a very long time. Final part, the end. At last, the old man understood. The silence he feared was not abandonment. It was an invitation. He realized that God had not taken people away to punish him, but to remove the noise that kept him from hearing the truth. Every loss had cleared space. Every lonely night had sharpened his sight. Every unanswered prayer had been shaping his soul. Those shadowed figures behind him were never meant to replace friends. They were witnesses, reminders that heaven had always been closer than he thought. The hourglass in God's hand was not a threat. It was mercy. Time had not been stolen from him. It had been entrusted to him. And the earth, turning in the other hand, whispered a final message. You are not forgotten. You are not late. You are exactly where I called you to be. The old man bowed his head, not in sorrow, but in peace. For the first time, growing old alone no longer felt like a curse. It felt like a sacred assignment. Because some souls are separated, not to break them, but to prepare them. And solitude, when chosen by God, is not emptiness. It is holiness.